So thank you so much for coming along. And I know that I've been working with and talking to lots of different people in lots of different businesses for the last few months. And this is, it's, I didn't come up with the term uncertain times. Someone who was helping me with the marketing did. I'm going to call it different times. It's different. And to me, the thing about different times is that it just makes me curious. And that's one of the key things that I would like to impart as we go through the presentation today and the masterclass is I want you to think about how you can be curious. Okay, so I am just going to, I think we'll get started. So here we are. Getting new clients in uncertain times. Okay, so again, thank you all for turning up for this masterclass here today. Just a little bit of an introduction about who I am and why the hell you should listen to me. First and foremost, I have been selling I put kindly over 20, it's now 24 years. I've been in some version of either a sales role or running sales teams or running my own businesses or running businesses with other people and managing sales teams. So I know a bit about selling and selling psychology. And I love it. I love getting it underneath people's skins. I love working out why people buy and helping them do that. And part of the reason that I set up Kiss to Sell 9 years ago was to do that, was to help other people really understand what it is that makes your customers tick. How do we get to know them better? How do we get to know their buying behaviors and their buying psychology so that you can better help them when it comes to purchasing from you, if indeed you are the right fit for them. So that's my greatest joy. My greatest joy is to take people from feeling awkward or unsure about what to say or how to approach something and give them the right skills and mindset and tools so that they can confidently walk out there and really talk to their clients and not just talk at them, actually talk with them. So that's my greatest joy, so that you can be the sales champion in your business. So what are we trying to achieve today? I want to tell you why now is the time to get into action with your clients. Not tomorrow, certainly not yesterday. Well, it could have been yesterday, but I don't have a time machine. But right now. And how do we do that? And I know some of the people that I've been chatting to, it's a great thing to get new skills and to learn what to do and how to do it. But the first thing we've got to do is overcome our own minds. And sometimes that's fear and sometimes that's other things. But it's really important to be conscious that we are fearful beings when we go to step out and talk to other people. That's a natural response, but I want to give you some tips and tools on how to overcome that and how to think about that differently. So again, it's really great to know what to do, but that doesn't help you unless you have some tips about how to do it. What's the nitty-gritty? And I definitely want to get into that with you, because anyone who's ever worked with me or spoken to me, that's one of my key gifts, is to really step out. Okay, well, maybe you should approach it this way. Try this, do that. Because to me, selling and interacting with clients happens in real life. It doesn't happen on a piece of paper. It doesn't happen in your dreams. It happens in reality. It's about getting face to face. Oh well, in this day and age, on the phone or over Zoom with your clients, and really understanding what's going on for them. So, how does that sound? Let's kick off and get into this. Now, as I said, there's been a few new people come along. And And oh, Amanda's just said, love your passion coming through, Fran. Thank you, Amanda. That's so kind. Yes, I am very passionate about this. Look, there's been a couple of people come in since we kicked off. So the rules for today are, we're going to go through a presentation. I've got some questions from people who emailed me prior to the masterclass today, and we'll cover those off. And please, if you have any questions or comments or want to share something, just pop it in the chat box. And we can cover that off either as it comes up or at the end, and I'll just use my discretion around that. If your question actually fits to what we're talking about, then I might answer it as we're going. So please feel free, as they come into your brain, just stick them in the chat, and that way we'll definitely answer all of your questions. Fantastic. Let's go, go, go. Okay, first and foremost, why? Why am I rabbiting on about this, and why should you listen? So, particularly at this time, paying and loyal clients are the absolute key to success. American Express has done some research with business owners who are saying that coming out of COVID, coming through this time, that's their number one priority. And by number one, I mean 87% of them said it was their number one priority. So it's not just me saying that it should be your number one priority, it's a whole lot of other business owners as well. So what is different now? And right at the beginning, I said that yes, there are uncertain times, but uncertainty just means we don't necessarily understand what's new for us, don't necessarily know what's new or changed for our clients. And if you were talking, and I'm very mindful of talking to children at the moment with homeschooling and everything, but if they don't understand something, what do you tell them to do? Oh, maybe you could look here. Maybe go and ask some questions. Maybe do this. What have you thought about? You could kind of help them think through what they do know, and think through where their gaps are, and think through what questions they should ask. And adults, frankly, are just big children. So here's my recommendation to you. If you don't understand what's happening with your clients, if you don't understand, and I don't mean understand in a shallow sense, I mean deeply. If you don't deeply understand what is going on for them, then get curious, get on the phone, ask some questions, just do some fact finding. I was working with a client this morning and he was saying, oh, these people are doing this and these people are doing this. And I said, well, do you know that? Or are they assumptions? So as human beings, we all make assumptions, and that's okay. And the reason that we feel nervous around uncertainty in uncertain times is because some of those assumptions aren't right anymore. And so we need to go and test them anew. So curiosity and being a scientist in your own business is absolutely your number one priority right now. And where do I want you to put that curiosity? I want you to apply it to your clients, because here's what I know from working in businesses for over 24, oh no, gosh, nearly 30 years. Oh my Lord, I'm 50 next year. Sorry. Here's what I know from working in businesses, that the businesses that thrive and survive, no matter what, are built in and around the reality of their clients. End of story. So the better you get to know your clients and what makes them tick and what they like and don't like and value and don't value, the better you're able to serve them. Okay, so that's why. Okay, so I don't recommend that you just start talking to people, because first we've got to have a little bit of an intention. We've got to have a little bit of a plan, a little mud map. So I want you to think about and for everyone who's come along and everyone who's registered, you'll get a copy of a workbook, and this page, it will be not the first page because there'll be a contents and those sort of things, but the first exercise that you will need to do in your workbook. What are you trying to achieve? Who are your most loved clients? What do you love doing that really serves them? What's your hypothesis about your clients? Why do you think they buy from you? I don't want you to spend hours and hours on this, but maybe just set aside 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and just think through what your hypothesis and assumptions are and what you would like your business to look like. What motivates you? Because at the end of the day, if you're chock full of clients, but you hate what you do and you're not motivated to do it, then that's no solution either. One of the things that I was thinking about when I was putting through together this webinar is the Japanese concept of ikigai. I don't know whether you've heard of it, but it looks at what you're passionate about, what you're good at, what the world needs. And there's another element. I'll put it in the workbook, or it is in the workbook, I should say. So I want you to think about that. What's your ikigai? What's the thing that motivates you and you're passionate about and the world needs and you're actually good at? So then what we want to do with this ideas that assumptions is go and test them. Go and test them. And that's exactly what we'll be talking about as we go through. So get a bit of a mud map and then let's work out how we're going to get there. Okay, so we've got our little mud map, we've got our little plan where we have to go out and test all of those things with inside the market that you're in. So when I work with clients around getting new clients and building their business, the three areas that I work on are mindset, activity, and results. Mindset always has to come first, because if you're thinking, oh, no one wants to buy from me, no one's buying right now, whatever it is that you're thinking is rolling around in your head, I don't want to pester people. No one wants to hear from me. What if I annoy them? What if they hang up on me? All of those sort of things go on in your head. If we don't get that mindset right first, then all of that comes out in your tone of voice. So let me give you a little example. If I go to pick up the phone to talk to someone and I think, oh, I'm probably annoying them. So my body changes shape, that changes the tone of my voice, and there's kind of an apologetic tone. Hi. Whereas if I'm thinking, oh, they really want to hear from me, I enjoy talking to them, we always get value from speaking to one another, there's a lightness and tone in my voice. So it can be very, very subtle. But we are subtle, subtle beings. And so the person on the other end of the Zoom or the other end of the phone or face to face picks up on all those nonverbal cues. And particularly when we're starved of connection, because 87% of communication is body language. So if you're missing out on that, you've got all of that missing. So that's why my preference is face-to-face. If you can't do face-to-face, do it over Zoom or some sort of video. If you can't do that, do it over the phone. And lastly, do it over email, because in communication terms, people interpret only 7% of the meaning from the words. And that's why the written word can be beautiful, but also can be very easily misconstrued. Okay, so once we've got our heads right, then we can do the things. We can do the right things. We can do them in the right way with the right tone in our voice and the right intention. And I'll give you some tricks around looking at results, particularly in business. People tend to look at a lot of lag indicators. What's my profit and loss? How many sales have I made? How many clients have I got on board? And they're all great. Don't get me wrong. Lag indicators are great indicators, but they don't give you the message of what's happening right now. So I want to flip your thinking and look at some lead indicators that you can be looking at in your business. Okay. Minds are messy things, aren't they? And sorry, I'm just reading some messages. Minds are messy things, aren't they? From the chat, not on something else. So they are related to this masterclass. And they're beautiful and messy. And so I don't subscribe to the idea that you can change your mind. Let me rephrase that. You can change your mind. You can look at things. But rather than just trying to blanket a positive statement over something that's there, I would rather look at something that's there and change it. So that's exactly where we start, in the messy mind. So I hope you're ready to split your minds open and have a little bit of a play with that. So this is often when I'm starting to talk to people and doing strategy sessions and those sort of things, this is often what I hear from them. I know I'm great. I know what I'm doing, but I'm scared to talk about myself. I'm scared to sell. Oh, silly phone. I'm scared to sell myself. I'm scared to talk about. I'm scared to ask. I'm scared to offer. I'm scared to all of these different things. So if that sounds like you, then you are absolutely in the right place. And I suppose the reason I put this slide up isn't to affirm that. It's more to say the rest of this content is aimed specifically at you. So I think there's sales trainers and all of those sort of people out there that, and there's lots of awesome sales training that works with people who love selling or like it or do it for a job. But my content is specifically aimed at people who hate it and irk away from it. So that's you. Okay, so how do we think about selling and clients as something completely different? First and foremost, I have to tell you, great selling actually isn't about you. Isn't that refreshing? Isn't that a relief? So often when I start working with people, they'll say, oh, but selling is about getting my message out there, me, my this. What do I say? Well, the first thing you say is, oh, tell me about you. Get curious about the other person, because great selling is a beautiful process that takes people on a buying journey. So our role as a fantastic salesperson is to understand who that client is, understand where they're at in their journey, and what that next step and the next step and the next step might be. For those of you who've worked with me or listened to me before, you will know that I love using the story of Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. So often what I say to people is, you know what? You are Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, which is fantastic because you get to wear that fabulous dress and float down in a bubble and have a magic wand, which is just fab. But the story's not about you. The story's about a little girl, she's not that little, but she's only 16, with a little dog who's just killed someone and moved from black and white to Technicolor for the first time in history. The first time in history that it's been a female lead in a movie. And she's 16. What? And the dog gets paid more than her. So what do we have to do with our Dorothy? We don't tell her that the wizard is a fraud, even though we know it. We don't tell her about the flying monkeys. We don't tell her about the fields of opium where she'll fall asleep. What we tell her is just enough to get off the porch. Just enough to put those ruby slippers on. Just enough to say hi to all the little people around. Just enough to introduce her to the concept of the yellow brick road, and just enough to get her started on the journey. So there's time. There's time to tell her the whole thing. There's time to help her when she gets to the next step and the next step and the next step. But that time isn't now. It's not about you. Your job is to help people through their buying process. So the more intimately you get to understand how people buy from you, what they value at each step along the way, the better at you are able to help others do exactly the same thing. People buy something that they need or they want. They're not going to buy simply because you bully them into it. But let's be honest here. Are there salespeople out there who are bullies and push people into sales and things that they don't need? Yeah, there definitely are. But I'm not promoting that version. And I call that the crocodile and the dinosaur. So just because there's crocodiles still in the world doesn't mean we're in the age of the dinosaurs. And we are not in the age of the pushy, disgusting salesperson. But yes, there are crocodiles still out there. So I want you to think about and be curious about what their problem is. How do they describe it? How do they feel about it? How do they think about it? What have they tried? So you see how the minute we change it from being about us and all stuck up and about what do I say and what do I do and what, me, and we make it about them, that's where the curiosity opens up. That's where the power is. You are an expert in whatever it is that you do, whether it's diabetes or leadership or art or public speaking or helping people manage businesses or personal training or whatever it is that you do, you are the expert, and you are the expert person to guide this person through their decision-making process about whether to buy from you or not, whether to solve this problem or not, how to think about it. That's what you're here to do. You're here to be of service. Glinda the Good Witch of the North could have made herself the star of that movie. She had a magic wand, but she didn't. She knew she was there as a secondary character to help Dorothy get started, to help her not give up, to help her when she fell asleep in the opium. So I want you to start thinking about what you can do. So in your workbook that you will get is, I want you to think about, how do you help people? What problems do you solve? And after listening today and thinking about this, what are the things that you need to change in your business about how you interact with clients? Maybe you need to do some fact finding. Maybe you need to get curious and really understand why it is that people buy from you. Okay, now we've got our minds in the right place. We're here to help. We're here to be of service. We're here to be curious and open and sit in our expertise and power. Now let's use that power. Wham, boing, bam. I love these things. I'm just a big kid at heart, just like you. So what are we going to do? So I have a very simple 4-step model. So here's what I want to show you. You know, I talked about that we have to start with mindset, and that mindset will predicate the right activity. Well, that's exactly what happens. So if it's not about me and it's about my client, what's the first thing I've got to do? I've got to get to know them, because I could have some great solutions, but I've got to work out whether they're the right one for you and whether you're the right one for me, because not every person who comes along is your ideal client. Not every person who comes along is going to buy from you. And you know what? That's okay. It's not about converting 100% of people over to your cause. Seth Godin calls it, people like us do things like this. So by listening, what you're listening for are the people like us say things like this. And the more you know about your ideal client and their pains and how they start and where they start and what sort of questions they'll be asking, the better you're able to answer questions like this in a way that people go, oh, you're one of us. People like us say things like this. I love Seth Godin. So we've got to start by listening. And listening just doesn't involve your ears. Listening involves your eyes. I was going to say your nose. No, your eyes, your brain, because you've got to be tuned in. You've got to be focusing on the other person. You've got to be looking at what's going on. What are their facial cues telling you? What is the tone of voice telling you? Are they happy? Are they sad? Are they cautious? Are they excited? What's going on for them? Listening also involves your mouth, because if someone's really excited about something, and they're describing something to me, I might say something like, "Oh, I love that passion. Where does that come from?" And that's a form of listening. Listening is about using all of your skills, all of your tools to listen and dig and be curious and open and really get to understand the person you're listening to. Once I've done that, then and only then can I work on, can I actually help this person? Do I have something that actually fits with what this person needs, where they're at right now, or not? And you know what? Both of those outcomes is okay. And finding fit isn't a cookie cutter. It's, hey, look, we do some things like this and this and this. How does that sound to you? Where we start is we do blah, 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 blah. And finding fit isn't an opportunity for you just to give them a laundry list of everything that you do. It's an opportunity for you to say, you know what, when I was listening to you, you mentioned this. And that made me think about this that I do. And you mentioned this. And one of the key pains that I heard you talking about was this, this, and this. And what we do about that is this, this, and this. So it's an applied fit. Okay, so now we've got the client engaged. When we're finding fit, it doesn't just mean that you talk about yourself. It's still molding it around your client. And that's when we actively look for objections. People often call this handling objections. That is just rubbish. Let me tell you why. Because we handle a snake, we handle a spider, we handle things we don't like, we handle a problem. Well, objections and questions from your clients are not a problem. Let me tell you why. Because that means they're interested in buying from you. So if you handle them, bat them away, then you're not going to help them. You're not going to be able to help them. You should be curious about questions. You should be open. You should want more. I get excited when people ask me questions about what I do. You know why? Because I know that means that they're a step closer on their journey to buying from me. They've made it all the way, Dorothy, on the yellow brick road, to the doors at the Emerald City by the time they're asking questions. Fantastic. And what am I always doing? And here's an overriding thing. I'm always looking to be creating value. Always. How can I help this person? How can I be of service to them? And sometimes that means passing them on to someone else who can serve them better than me. So it's not a selfish thing. It's a service-based thing. So that's the sort of activity that I want you to be doing. Listening, applying what you know to what you've heard, actively helping the client run through questions or asking them about implementation. What would this look like in your office? If we were to do some training around type 2 diabetes, what do you think the key objections might be? Actually asking those questions, helping them think them through, and always look to be adding value. Because you are beautiful, valuable people. So don't hide it under a bushel. It's not allowed. Okay, so I just want to run you through. There's a more complicated version of this that I go through, but when we're selling to someone, right back at the beginning, I said the first point of the mindset is that we're helping clients buy, right? We're helping our clients make a buying decision. So let me just run through how people do that. First of all, they have a problem. I'm thirsty. I want a new car. I need a new dress, whatever it is. And then they start thinking about it. Oh, well, I could do this, or I could do that, or I could do this, or I could do that. Oh, no, that's too hard. That's too easy. That's too blue. That's too green. A whole lot of things go into these thought decisions. Finally, they make a decision. They make a decision, and then they go and negotiate. Now, I know that Jennifer's here and she has spent some time, and her background is Chinese, and she's spent some time in there. The Chinese way of doing business is they negotiate and they sign a contract, and then they negotiate. Then they start the real discussions once they've signed the contract, which is completely the other way around in the Western world. But let me tell you, that follows human buying psychology far better than the way we do it. So just because someone said yes to you, and just because they've signed on the dotted line and started working with you, that does not mean you have permission to stop selling and stop asking questions and stop being curious. Actually, that's exactly when you should start. So I'm going to give you a really simple structure for everything I do in selling. And this helps to orientate you around exactly what we've talked about. So it's called you, me, and the next step. So the you component is not you. It's not about you, remember? We talked about that. It's about your client. So the you component is about your client. The me component is about how I relate what I do to that client. And the next step is the next step. So let me give you a little example. Let's say I'm having a first meeting with a client. Sitting down, let's say that we've put aside an hour. I will spend 45 to 50 minutes getting them to talk about themselves. That's the you component. So lots of questions. Tell me about you. What's good? What's bad? What have you tried before? Etc., etc. I've got a laundry list of questions. Once I really feel I've got a handle on them, then I spend the next 5 to 10 minutes going through the fit, the me. You said this, that made me think about this. Do you think that would work in your business? Why? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? If we were to apply that in your business, what would that mean for you? So it's still more questions, but what I'm doing is molding the solution for them. And finally, before I let them off the hook, and I am a salesperson, so I do like to catch the fish, let's face it. But before I let them off the hook, what I do is the next step. So I summarize. I am in charge of this meeting. I am in charge of the sale, and they are there to help me do that. Okay. So this is what the next step sounds like. Thank you so much for the meeting today. What I've learned about you is this, this, and this. What we've talked about as a way to solve that problem is to do this, this, and this. As I discussed with you, the next step for me is to put together a proposal. Given that I do that by Friday, when should I give you another call? So you see, I'm laying out the next step and the next step and the next step. If I've just got Dorothy off the porch and I've introduced her to the yellow brick road, I now don't want to leave her on her own. I want to introduce her to the straw man, the scarecrow, and the lion, and the tin man, not in that order. So I need to have those next steps laid out. And I always want to have the ball in my court. And here's why. So if I say to someone, I'm going to send you a proposal on Friday, and I do it, I'm reliable. They trust me more. If I don't set a time on that, if I say to them, I'm going to send you a proposal, they will put that idea in their head of whatever the date is. So they might think, oh, I'll get that this week, or oh, I'll get that next month. But if you do not deliver to their internal timetable that you have no idea about, they will see you as unreliable and they won't trust you. And people buy from people they know, like, and trust. So that's number one reason. The second reason is a little selfish, to be honest. I like to feel positive and confident when I'm picking up the phone to talk to someone about a proposal that I've sent them. So you know what? If they've agreed with me that I will call them at Tuesday at 10 o'clock, then how do I feel picking up the phone? I go, they're expecting my call. They've heard from me. They've actually given me permission to call. So my whole approach is different. The whole way I think about it, back to that mindset again, is different. And so then how I conduct that call is different. And so particularly for people who are anxious about selling, this is the number one thing that I would get you to change right now, is just make the next appointment while you're on the phone with them and watch it move so much more easily and quickly for you. This is gold right there. Okay, so as we make it about the other person, we do want them to go on a journey. It's a buying journey. So we do want to be in relationship with them and help them and steer them along that journey. We do want to be clear about not just what those steps are, but how you help and what tools you need to help in delivering that journey for that client. And all of this can be systemized. And this is exactly what I do with my coaching clients, is help them build out the journey, the tools, what to say when, what to listen for, all of those things, so that you can have a predictable client mechanism that isn't kind of, oh, when I pick up the phone, it happens. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. It's much more predictable. We know the numbers we need to do, and you're just much more confident and practical in how you do it. And you've got to ask. If you want to set an appointment for the next meeting, ask. If you want them to say yes to your proposal, ask. Now, sometimes you don't know. And in selling, there is science, which is what I talked about before with the metrics and the system and all of that sort of thing, but there's also art. So it's okay to be fuzzy. So if you don't know, that shouldn't stop you picking up the phone. If you don't know, it shouldn't stop you getting into activity. Actually, it should spur you into activity. Not knowing, being uncertain, should move you to activity. That's the sales psychology. Now, I'm writing a book at the moment called More Sales, Less Marketing, and that's exactly what I'm talking about, changing business psychology to less gazing at your navel, as beautiful as your navel is, I'm sure, to actually getting out and talking to clients, actually getting out and understanding the reality from the outside in. Okay, so some activities for you, and all of these, don't worry if you're madly writing them down, you're going to get a copy of the replay and a workbook with these things in there. How do I find out about others? What sort of questions do you ask? How do I fit? What does my fit look like? And how do I create value? Let's really understand that so you can share that with other people. And make sure you're asking for the next step, or you'll be in trouble with me. So I love results. I'm a salesperson and have been for 24 years, 23. Anyway, too long to remember. But here's what I've learned about results. From the outside, people think that salespeople results are about the numbers that they hit. And you know what? They are at the end of the day. But it's a lag indicator. Instead, I want you, not instead, as well as, do you in your sales role in your business, and that key role of getting clients into your business and paying you, do you want to see those end results? Absolutely. But often people can be upset or swayed off their activity because they're not seeing that end result yet. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to see each step as a result. So if I put something out there and I get some responses, so here I have 18 participants on a masterclass. That is a result. That is a result, and that makes me feel happy. I've had people asking questions. That is a result. I'll have people who inquire about my next step. That's a result. I'll have people give me positive feedback. That's a result. So each step on your journey is a result. And that's why it's so important to have that journey mapped out so that you can keep on track, so that you can feed your mind with those positive results so that you get to the end and get the things that you need, which are the sales in the door. I know I'll get off my soapbox maybe at the end of the masterclass, but I am very passionate about it. Work first, results second. Sometimes what I say to people, and this is salespeople that I'm talking to and coaching in business, I say to them, you don't say to a fire, give me more heat and then I'll throw another log on. You've got to do the work. You've got to do the activity, and then you get a warm fire and then you feel warm. Okay? So you've got to put the wood on first. Each step is a result, and knowing your client journey is critical so that you can measure those results and feel good about them, because that's part of the measurement. So in your results part of your workbook, I want you to really think about what are the steps that you need to do to get a client from an inquiry through to buying from you. How can you map and measure your results? And how can you help your client and you think differently about each step? Okay, so in getting through to your clients, here's the things that you need to do. Number one, first and foremost, be clear about you. Who are you looking for? What are you doing? Think about that you're helping people. Know how you serve. Know the value that they get. Get in close and personal with your clients so that you understand that value and you can look to deliver that to new people just like them. Get into activity. Think about the process. How do you get curious? How do you build on that? How do you manage that? How do you ask questions? All of those things, all of those elements of activity are so, so important. And how do you measure those results? Because if you can be clear about what you're building and see those blocks building over time, then that will feel good. And yes, you will get more money. Yes, you will get more clients. But you have to go through the process. Okay. How are we going for time? We've got 15 minutes left. That's awesome. Oh, Heather's just saying, thank you, Heather. She says, never apologize for passion. I agree. I wasn't really apologizing, even though it did sound a little bit like an apology, I have to say. Okay, so I have some questions here from some people who put them on, sent them to me earlier. If anybody else has some questions, please put them in the chat and I will definitely get to all of you. Because that's what I love to do. That's how people get value out of me. And it makes me happy. It's my icky guy. So firstly, I'm going to go with Amanda. So Amanda had a question about, she works with giving people information around type 2 diabetes. And she had some questions about really thinking through her ideal client. And she's had some interesting experiences. And so I'm so pleased that she told me about her experiences, because you know what? That just tells me that she knows and has been talking to her clients and kind of been watching what's happening, which is fantastic. Well done, Amanda. So, what motivates people to get more information or do something about type 2 diabetes? Obviously, there's the trigger, right, of when something happens, when a loved one or us personally have, go to the doctor and find out we have it. Sometimes um, that information comes beforehand. So we might have a family member, and so we are kind of more aware of things. So it's perfectly okay, Amanda, to think about this as a chain. So really, you have multiple clients that you're talking to. At the end of the day, you've got the person who you're delivering the lifestyle changes to, the person with diabetes. But equally, you've got their carers and their influencers. So you mentioned often it'll be perhaps the wife who comes and explores the information because her husband's just been diagnosed with diabetes, or she's worried about him. So her motivations and what she's thinking about and talking about and asking will be different. So when you think about how she buys, it will be different from the individual who has diabetes themselves. It's the same with the health professionals. And as you're talking to these people, I really want you to think about what's their problem. So the wife, her problem is, I'm just thinking about my husband, her problem is, okay, I've got this information now. How do I get him to actually change? How do I influence his behavior? If you're talking to a health professional, my curiosity is probably a little bit different. So, why is this different to the other things that we're already using? How can it complement what I'm doing? Is it going to move away from what I'm doing? And what's their problem? Are they giving people information and stuff on on type 2 diabetes and then they're not actioning it? Or are they not getting to people early enough? So you really need to understand what problem you're solving for each of these people in your ecosystem, and then you'll be better able to address that need with them. So Amanda, I hope that's answered your question. If not, please feel free to pop something in the chat for me. So Maxine's come along. Hey, Maxine. And she looks at leadership and particularly around high achieving women. And she's talking about how do you focus in on high achieving women. So my number one tip, Maxine, for you is that I would go and talk to the high achieving women that you have already worked with. I would do some client experience interviews with them so that you really understand what their buying journey was from the very beginning and what they got out of it. So what's their buying journey? What's their value proposition? What was their understanding of that value proposition at the beginning? And then once they said yes to you, and then as they've worked with you. And I think that will give you a beautiful, rich tapestry of where to focus, what words to use, what emotions, and what movement, what do you actually what do actually people get out of working with you. And Maxine, I hope that's answered your question. If there's anything else, please pop it in the chat for me. I've also had a question from Jennifer. Thank you, Jennifer. Welcome along. Jennifer does the most beautiful art and classes, art classes. And she had a question about what's the difference between, or how do you tell the difference between, making an offer versus helping people buy? And I know, Jennifer, I've put that in my own words. But I think really the difference is that an offer is the start of the journey. So, actually, the offer is the second step in the journey. Going back to our 4-step model, we start by listening. Once you've listened and you understand what this person's problem is, and that listening might be done on the website. So it doesn't have to be that every time you sign someone up for an art class, for example, that is done, one-to-one, because that's not very efficient way to sell. But you will notice that there are things like frequently asked questions, or you see landing pages and those sort of things taking people on a journey. So that's what I want you to think about. So yes, there's the elements of an offer and how you get people to buy from you, but I want you to think about, if you really understand how it is, that what that journey is that people take in buying from you, and your website and what you do actually matches that, then you'll be able to understand how to influence people to the next step and the next step and the next step. So buying isn't a one-trick pony. Buying isn't something that happens, magically at a point in time. Buying is a process. So what I want you to do is think about that process. Think about taking people through that. So I hope that has helped you, Jennifer. If anybody else has any questions, and I've got a couple up here. Okay, so Pooja has, hey Pooja, how are you? Thank you for coming along. She has written a question in the chat box that says, if you are doing a free presentation, oh, you mean just like this? That might potentially be a sales strategy. How do you then convert on the spot, as in, because, yeah, you don't know who your audience is. Okay, so you're right, Pooja. This is a one-to-many situation, but here's what I know about the people who've come along. These people are in my target market. The majority are women in business. They run their own businesses. They're passionate about what they do. They want to get better at what they do. They want to get more clients. They want to have more impact, whatever it is. And sometimes people talk about that in terms of money. Sometimes it's about impact. Sometimes it's about serving their clients better. Sometimes it's about providing for their family. All of those nuances are different, but the motivation is the same, in the sense that it's really about improving. These people want more clients. Otherwise, they wouldn't have come along to the masterclass today. So what I want to do is take people on to the next step. So, and that's a beautiful segue. Thank you, Pooja. I didn't plant that question, by the way. So if you want to get more structured and intentional in sales, and getting more clients and making more money, then I would love you to join me. So what the next step is for me, or for working with me, is I do have a new group. I do group coaching. It's a 10-week program. I only take 8 women, and I've only got 5 spots available. And we start in October. So if that sounds like you, if you would like to know more, if you would like to flesh out that journey, if you would like to spend some more time over a 10-week program fleshing all of these things out, then I would love to help you. And what I would love you to do is just pop something in the chat, and I will be following you all up. Just say me, and I'll be happy to have a conversation with you. For those people who do that with me today, and sign up before Friday this week, I am offering each of you a 1-hour one-to-one power strategy session with me. So that's worth $495 as a bonus. So Pooja, that's how you do it. You want to take them onto the next step. And sorry, I'm just going up to get back to your question. So you want to take them to something that you can answer some more questions. So if it's a low value sell, then you might take them to a frequently asked questions, or you might take them to a sales page that has some frequently asked questions and some testimonials on it. So just thinking through what that journey is, because this masterclass is just one step in the journey. And you've got to be conscious of where they came from before, where they are now, and where you're taking them next. So Louise has asked a fantastic question. Thank you, Louise. She says, is no the end of the journey, and how do you reconnect? Okay, so no. No is never the end of the journey. Well, not never. It depends how they say it, Louise, to be honest. But often people say no for different reasons. Sometimes it's financial. I can't afford that right now. Sometimes it's timing. It's not the right time. And sometimes they just say no because they're not interested or they don't really understand what it is that you're offering. Either way, you can think about how you progress that. So one way of doing that might be to say, so let's say, and I know Louise does the most beautiful aromatherapy products, cosmetic products. So let's say you're talking to a potential store to stock and they say, oh no, you say, absolutely no problem. So just so I know and can put in my database, is that a no, you never want to look at this? Or is that, oh, we normally do our buying and plan out what's in our store in March. Can you just give me a little bit more information? So let's say they say it's a timing thing. You say, great. So when do you do your planning? Is that quarterly? Is it every month? And when should I touch base with you again? Or when would you reconsider that? So sometimes you might find out that they've got a whole lot of stock of a particular product that's in competition, then they don't want to have those two competing products in their shop. Or you might say, okay, so just so I know, how much stock have you got in hand of that roughly? And they go, oh, about 100 or X. Well, then you could calculate what you think their turnover is and then call them after that. But I always ask permission. So I was talking to someone the other day and they said, oh, yeah, I should get back to you by the end of the week. And I go, oh, okay, fantastic. Listen, if you don't, would it be okay if I gave you a call on Monday? And you know what? 99% of people will say, yes, that would be great. Thank you. Because you're taking something, they don't have to remember to call you. That's one more thing they don't have to remember to do. So you could say something like, oh, okay, so would it be okay if I gave you a call in a couple of months just to see where you're at with that stock holding of that particular product? So no doesn't always mean no. So there you are. So thank you, Jane. I will be in touch with you. And thank you, Margaret. I will be in touch with you. I have another question here from Grace. Hi, Grace. How are you? It says, how about when clients always compare solely on price for the same service? Oh, yeah. Competitors these days are doing price wars instead of selling on value. Totally agree, Grace. However, I've got a little saying that I love, which is price is what you pay, value is what you get. So if you are a value-based business and you sell based on value and your client will not talk about value, will only talk about price, then they are not your client. So send them to the cheapest one. Or you leave them with something like this. Look, and this is a strategy called feel, felt, found. Totally understand how you feel. Other clients who've worked with us have felt exactly the same way. They've looked at and some of them are actually used alternate services or products. And what they've found was that it just didn't cut the mustard. It actually didn't give them what they needed. So then they came back to us. And what they found from doing that was that we were by far the best alternative for them. And they actually wish they'd started with us from the beginning. So that's a tactic called feel, felt, found. So the feel component is I understand how you feel. So you're normalizing that behavior and that idea. Felt, other clients, other people just like you have felt the same way. And then the found component is what they've discovered from making the right decision, which is buying from you. I hope that makes sense. Thanks, Francis. Oh, thank you, Sarah. She says, great ideas, love your style. Yay, thanks, Sarah. And Denise is saying some lovely words as well. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Francis. What a big takeaway. Oh, Grace, that's fantastic. You wait to see the workbook. There's more work for you to do yet, my love. Amanda saying that's gold. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone. I've gone 3 minutes over. Please feel free. You've got my email address, so please feel free to ask me more questions. For those people that have said that they would like follow up, I will be talking to you later this afternoon. And for everyone else, thank you again for coming along. I have a replay and a workbook coming out to you later this afternoon. And I look forward to working with you all. And as I said, I've got 5 spots left for my coaching group, which starts in October. And I would love to help you get more clients and get more money for your business. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.